we've got a very, very special guest this evening on the show for an interview. David Mackay, the number 14 for the Adelaide Crows, has been kind enough to join us tonight. How are you tonight, David?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Great to have you aboard. We thought we'd have a bit of a general chat tonight, just not about footy stuff, but just a bit of your background and history as well. And we did a bit of research and found out that back in the old days, you managed to play a bit of basketball with Andy Otten. Can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Andy and how that then fed into the time that you have had at the Adelaide Football Club?
Yeah, well, I started playing basketball when I was about 5 or 6, and actually my first team I was ever in, I was actually in the same team as Andy down at the Nunawading Vikings in eastern Melbourne, and yeah, we sort of played for a number of years together. I was actually coached by Andy's dad, Theo, for a number of years, and played with Andy and Andy's brother Johnny as well in the same team. And yeah, I suppose we did that, and then we actually found ourselves. We had, I sort of stopped playing basketball for quite a while and started to play footy, and Andy did the same thing, and we actually found our way into the same under-18 team at the Oakley Chargers, and managed to win a premiership there, playing footy together. So, we played in a premiership for basketball when we were about 8 years old, and then we managed to play in a footy grand final together when we were 18, and then lo and behold, we end up at the same AFL club. It's been terrific to have that relationship with Andy for most of our lives now, and also the families too are pretty close, and it's really good the way it's all worked out.
Would have been
That's a great story.
You didn't actually like each other, mate.
yeah. No, look, we get on really well, and we're still close mates, so it's been really good.
Did that help you with your transition from moving from Victoria to South Australia to have that existing relationship?
Yeah, well, I got there to the Adelaide Crows a year before Andy, so it was really good actually to have someone, I suppose, come over who I had such a great relationship with, and I certainly think it helped him too, coming over and having someone that he knew, and it is pretty daunting coming over as an 18-year-old, moving state. You don't know anyone, you don't have any family or friends over here, so I suppose for him to have a familiar face was good, and for me to try and take him under my wing and help him wherever I could, and yeah, so it sort of worked out really well, and he obviously he's settled now over here, and we both are, and it's we remain really close.
I wondered, have you actually nicknamed him a copycat then? Because from what you were just saying there, it seems he's always copied you.
No, look, I actually left that club that we played junior basketball with. I actually left that club when I was about 11 or 12, and he was pretty dirty on me for that. So I don't think he's actually still forgiven me for moving clubs when I was that age, and still holds that against me, and still says we would have done all right if we had stuck together a bit longer, but we found our way back together eventually.
And the other interesting thing we found is somebody was searching on your lovely little Wikipedia page, and it actually said on there you were captain of your house at school, and Todd Goldstein was your vice captain. Is that correct?
Yeah. So Todd and I went to school together, and we're pretty close mates at school, and he obviously has a really strong basketball background, and it was actually a pretty interesting story. He was actually thinking about going over to America to play college basketball, sort of when we were in our final years at school, and I sort of had a bit of a word to him and tried to get him down to play footy, because I knew he could play footy, and he'd played here and there, and he'd done pretty well. So we tried to coax him into playing school footy, and we got him to do that for a year 12 year. So he came down, played that, and then I tried to convince him to play TAC Cup, and we got him into to play the last 4 games of the under-18s with Oakley Chargers, and he came in and absolutely dominated. Obviously played in the finals, played in the grand final, dominated, and got drafted. So it sort of worked out pretty well. He didn't play a lot of footy at all, but he had that sort of natural ability, and he had the size, and he was a great ruckman all the way through school. So it was quite timely that he decided to change over when he did, and it's worked out really well for him, obviously.
So I think it sounds like he owes you a present now too. You're doing quite well here.
No, I'm taking too much credit for that. I just every time I catch up with him, I remind him that if it wasn't for me, he wouldn't be playing footy. But I'm sure he would have found his way into it at some stage anyway.
Do you give him a bit of a clip when things like Petrenko kicking one off the ground to win in the last 30 seconds and happens and that sort of stuff? Just remind him, where he fits in the scheme of things?
Yeah, look, that was they were going through a pretty tough period at that point. They'd lost about 3 or 4 games in a row by less than a kick, and look, he's had some great success. So I can't really be talking too much about that sort of stuff because he probably has the wood over me. But every time we get a chance to play and hopefully beat them, it's a good feeling. I have a few words to him after the game, and but it's all good fun.
Hopefully again this weekend, mate. Hey, when you were first drafted, you then got mini drafted to the Panthers. Just give us a bit of an insight. The difference between back then when it was split, between the 2 clubs and now to the whole streamlined arrangement. How are you finding it, and how does that feel around the club now that that's in place?
Oh, look, it's a drastic change. It's for our footy club, and for the AFL clubs who have outright reserves teams or state league teams in their own right. It's such an advantage. It's quite hard to actually understand how much it does help us. I suppose when we had the old system where we'd go out to SANFL clubs, you really were part of another footy club. You really were playing for another footy club every weekend, and it basically meant the role that you played had no correlation to the role that you were playing in the AFL squad. Training. You go to your SANFL club late in the week on a Thursday or Friday and train with them. So effectively, you're only having about half the week at your AFL club. So in terms of development, it's working so much better being able to have our own team where we can stay together. You can play the same role, the same structures that the AFL team is, so that when you come in and get picked, it's a lot more streamlined, and you can come straight in. You understand what you need to do, and not have to make that adjustment. So it's been great for us to have that the last couple of years, and I think it's only going to help us, more going forward with our development and our pressure for spots and all that sort of stuff, which is basically key to having a good side and a good footy club.
David, just going back a few years, I know that we've had obviously a number of coaches, particularly in your tenure at the Adelaide Football Club. I'm just wondering how that number of changes affects you as a player, and I guess any other player in the playing group when you've got a number of different coaches with different styles, and how that can affect you generally.
Yeah, look, there's no doubt that when a new coach comes in, a lot of changes happen, and you have to make a lot of adjustments, and it does take time to, I guess, learn the ways of the new coach and how they want to play, and I suppose how they want to set the club up as well. And so I guess to have that change so much in the last few years, it hasn't been easy, and it's not just the players have to adjust, but it's the whole club. It's support staff, medical staff. Like when a senior coach changes, all that gets reviewed and changes, and So it is quite challenging, and things do need to change, and you have to adapt to it. But I guess the coaches that we've had, have really been really positive with that, and they've come in and they've made great change. And obviously things haven't worked out for certain reasons for some of those coaches, but I think that the group has accepted what's happened, and with Pikey coming in this year, he's been able to bring a great positive mindset to this group. And I think we've had a lot of challenges in the past, but Pikey has come in with his way and what he believes will help us win. And obviously we've had things that have been in place in the past that we've kept because we have seen them work over the last few years. So it's not a matter of wiping the floor and changing everything. It's just making a few adjustments and to keep us, I guess, ahead of the curve and keep trying to improve quicker than the 17 other clubs out there.
So you would have been one of the few remaining from when Pikey was here previously. Were you around then?
No, Pikey left the year before I got there. So we've got a few. I think Tomo, VB, Rishi Douglas are the ones who are still around from that year.
Yeah.
From that, I'd be interested to know, have they actually said anything about whether he's changed a little bit from that time?
I'm not too sure. I suppose that's 10 years ago now. So, he's obviously been through a lot in that 10 years. He's had, obviously areas of his life business that he's delved into, and then, he's been on the board at West Coast. He's coached a little bit with Freo on West Coast. So he's done a lot in that time. So I think he has added a lot to his footy knowledge and his people management skills. But I haven't had that conversation with those boys about whether they think he's changed too much. And I know just talking briefly, VB. Said he's always been really switched on. He understands the game really well and communicates really well. So that's something that he's had the whole time through. Now,
it's interesting. One of our forum members has read Paddy Steinford's Breakfast with Bales books. It's on my to-read list. I unfortunately haven't got to it yet. But they said that in the book it was just you were actually discussed about Bales, who had, I'm not sure whether he'd done some work directly with you or not, but it was how you work really well having a very structured role within the team. So I was just actually wondering, was that something you worked directly with Dean Bailey or maybe possibly with Paddy Steinford as well, or was it something that you think that they directed at the line coaches as the best way to get the best out of you?
Yeah, look, I spent quite a bit of time with Bales, and it was probably something that that I'd highlighted with him and the rest of the coaching staff about, I suppose, trying to improve and get better. And I suppose, I'd very much been a structured person, and the way that I played was very structured and specific to the role that I was playing. And I suppose Bales was very big, not just for me, but for all the guys that he worked with closely, was for, I suppose, branching out a little bit more and trying to be a little bit more creative and not so much get out of that structured way, but just branch out a bit and sort of look at things a little bit differently. And he was a little bit different, Bales, and so he, I suppose, gave us a few different strategies and things that we could do in our everyday life that would help us, I guess, be a little bit more creative with our footy and explore opportunities. And that was something that we worked really closely. No, it wasn't just myself. It was a number of other boys who were in the same situation. And so I suppose that was one of the things one of the things that Bales had a huge impact on me and many of the boys at the club.
No, it's just a tragedy we didn't have him around very long with us, but it's good to see that he actually did have quite an impact in the time that he was with us.
Oh, look, no doubt. And it's hard to fathom, what happened, and it's difficult because there's so many guys at the club who had great relationships with Bales, and he was only at our club for a short time, but he had a profound impact in that time. There's no doubt about that.
Now, David, just on a bit of a lighter note, you were part of the peroxide brigade back in the early part of your career. You had Scotty Welsh and a few others, and I'm sure you would have tried to get Mackay and Roo involved in that at some stage. How has it left you feeling now that the club has changed direction and gone from more of a Ranger approach? And
watch it.
And post footy, do you think you might get involved in something similar to Mackay with the Indigenous and try to recruit a few more young peroxided players into the club and get the balance right again?
Look, I'm not too proud of those peroxide days, but it seems to have gone out of fashion, so I think that's why it sort of drifted off the radar. But you're right, we do have our fair share of redheads, and I think we'd probably be leading the way. I reckon in the AFL, we seem to keep bringing one or two in every year. So no, look, I think they can all play, and they're great guys. So it doesn't worry me too much. And I think it'll be a while till we see the peroxide back in fashion. I think that might take a while to get back into vogue.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that they're all decent players. I mean, Chief would probably let you know that pretty regularly, wouldn't he? Who's going all right?
Yeah, look, he's the leader of that that clan. So he does cop the most stick about it, and but he does give it as well. So he's got to expect to cop it every now and again. But you got someone like a Dean Gore who's just come into the club, and I certainly feel for him because he's copped it a little bit, but he doesn't deserve it.
Do you reckon he might just shave it off? Try and distance himself from them a bit?
Do a sauce?
Perhaps. I mean, that's what Sauce has been trying to do, but unfortunately you can't seem to hide it too well. So
just on that, David,
doesn't seem to work.
Who would be the king of the sledges out on the track, can we ask?
Oh, look, I think Tex seems to talk the most, and I'm not down there too often in the forward line, but from what I can gather, he's pretty brutal, and I'm not sure how intellectual it is, but it's pretty brutal, I think.
This is going to air unedited too, mate. So we're gonna tag him in on Twitter.
Yeah.
Can I just ask sorry, just to go back to footy for a second. Can I just ask a footy question? I'm just interested with the way that we're now playing and the way that we played the NAB Challenge. I noticed from the stats that we lost against Fremantle, we lost contested football and clearances, and then against Gold Coast, we lost those stats as well as centre clearances. But looking at the NAB Challenge total statistics, we won. I think we were the number one team for uncontested possession. Does that signal a little bit of a change in the way that we've traditionally played over the last few years, being contested ball hunters, to now looking to really try and perhaps stay off the contest a little bit and try and win the ball on outside a little bit more?
Oh, look, there's no doubt that's been a huge area of focus for us because it's been an area that let us down the last probably 2 or 3 years, really. We haven't got that right. So that's been a massive area of focus. But having said that, what we've done on the inside against Freo and also Gold Coast wasn't at the level that we're after. So it's not about sacrificing one for the other. It's about you've got to be able to win the hunt on the inside. It's the most important thing in our game, and that's our will be our number one focus all the time, as it should be. But just having a bit more balance and being able to win our fair share on the outside as well is really important too. So we're trying to get that balance right. We have a few things that we've need to improve on from the last 2 NAB Cup games, and most of it is sort of our inside stuff, but we've done a lot of work on that the last couple of weeks. So I think, we'll be ready to go this weekend, but it's about getting the balance right with that. So hopefully you can sort of see us doing both of those.
And just on the fun little thing that probably gets asked quite a bit, just regarding that it was reported a few years ago that the Demons offered you quite an attractive contract. So as being an interstate player, you often get asked, do you like Adelaide, and are you going to stay, et cetera, but when something like comes along, how much pressure do Victorian clubs put on Victorian players to go back? And in that particular situation, was it a difficult decision for you to stay in Adelaide? Did you contemplate moving back to Melbourne?
Not ever seriously. Obviously, as your sort of career gets on and you get a bit older and your life changes a bit, whether it be your family, your own family, that sort of thing. I guess you get to a point where you have to start, seriously thinking about what the future looks like, and so I suppose you get in a situation where you got to weigh all that up, and in terms of putting pressure on, I mean, the clubs, both ways are very good. They allow you the time to come to that decision, and you just sort that out through your manager over time. And I never seriously considered leaving the club. I just got to a point where I had to think about the future and where things were headed, and then make a considered decision. And I feel really lucky to be able to play for the Adelaide Footy Club, and I've always felt that way. It's been, it's an absolute privilege to be able to be in that position, and that's the way I've sort of looked at it. And I've just, whenever contracts have come up or whatever, it's just been about making a considered decision, and that's happened all the way through. So, but clubs don't put a lot, too much pressure on you. It's really handled well through the managers and allowing you to just focus on the game.
Hey, now,
so the upshot of,
sorry, go on.
Just quickly, yeah. So is the upshot of that you feel very strongly about trying to be a one club player?
That's something that's really important to me. And it's a lot of guys feel that same way, and but it does get to a point where as much as you want to be able to do that, other things, if it's preventing you from getting opportunity or from playing, or then you have to weigh that up and make a decision based on that. But for me personally, that's something that when my footy's done, I'll look back and be pretty proud on. And that certainly came into my thoughts whenever contracts came up. That was one of the things I was really held pretty tight to me, was to be able to play for a great club for the whole time I played footy.
David, we're just about getting towards the end of the time. We thought we'd leave the most important question to last. There's the new sleep facility down there at Adelaide. If you had to nominate a player you would least like to be caught in that sleep room with you, who would that be?
Oh, I don't know if we've got long enough to name them all. I think it's... well, I'm not too sure.
Who's the worst snorer?
Well, when we travel these days, we get our own room, so you don't pick up on who snores and all that anymore. But I would probably say Tommy Lynch would be the one that I wouldn't want to be caught in there with, for a number of reasons. It's not just that he has red hair. So.
You're not going to share that.
Look, we could be here all night. We could be here all night. Probably because when I'd be trying to get to sleep and he'd be still chatting away because you can't shut him up. So that would be probably the main reason.
Yeah. Hey, Dave,
I reckon I can shut him up.
Or let's not go
No,
there.
talking wise. Talking wise, you two.
Oh, jeez. Hey, David, you mentioned one club players before, and I have to ask this. Obviously, I've got the hard-hitting questions here. The reverse falcon last year, I need to know how big was the fine, and who actually got charged by the leadership group? Was it your fault in the end, or was it Danger's fault?
Voldemort. His name's Voldemort, remember?
Well, I don't think there was any fines handed out, but it certainly wasn't my fault. I can tell you that right now. I think Danger actually was pretty adamant that he wanted to get 2 possessions out of it, so he basically tried to use me as as a bit of a fake smother, and then he was able to get 2 possessions out of it. So it doesn't really surprise me. But no, well, I don't think I got anything. I think I just got the embarrassment, and that was about it. So no, it didn't look too good.
I reckon I might have been the
cattle.
Sorry, Nick, go on.
Oh no, we think it counts as an effective possession, which is sometimes a little rare for him. Yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me actually. I don't know what I was doing running that close to him. He does spray it a little bit, so.
Well, he wasn't going to give, he wasn't going to give the handball, don't you?
yeah. No,
David,
I've seen it far too many times.
David, thanks so much for your time. I hope that wasn't too horrific for you to come on to the Crowcast, but we really, really appreciate your time.
No worries, guys. No worries.